time, our options become worse and worse and worse. That's what's going on in Syria now. This administration chose not to lead at a critical time, and now we're faced with an even worse situation. However, with regard to ISIS, I know our allies in the Middle East. I've been in and out of the Middle East for quite a while. So recall King Abdullah of Jordan, a man I've known for a long time. Do you recall that when the Jordanian pilot was burned alive in a cage, King Abdullah of Jordan was in this country. He was here because he was asking us for very specific kinds of support in his fight against ISIS. He was asking us for bombs, for materiel. We haven't provided it. And yet, he is fighting ISIS on the ground as we speak. The Egyptians have asked us to share intelligence, and Egypt can be a real leader in this region to help fight ISIS. We haven't done it. The Kurds have been asking us to arm them for 3 years. The Bahrainis, the Kuwaitis, the Emiratis, the Saudis, all of these allies, they are not perfect nations, but they do understand that ISIS is an existential threat to them, and they are prepared to fight, but not unless they seek and see leadership, support, and resolve from the United States of America. So we must arm the Kurds. We must provide Jordan with the bombs and material. We must share intelligence. I would gather our Arab allies, those that I have just mentioned, and potentially Turkey as well, in a summit to say, what is it you need from the United States of America to defeat this evil? Do we need to put special forces on the ground? Yes, but none of those allies are going to tell us, gee, we want 10,000 boots on the ground. That's not what they're going to ask us. In all of the cases where we must confront an adversary, whether it is China, whether it is Russia, whether it is Iran, whether it is ISIS, we have allies who are willing to help us, but they will not have courage unless they see leadership, support, and resolve from the United States of America.
Former Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Admiral Mike Mullen, former General James Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis, have both suggested that the single greatest national security threat we face in America today is our national debt. So considering that, but also just any spectrum of national security threats, what do you think are the biggest, maybe the top, and then maybe the next two national security threats facing America today?
Well, let's just start by saying it is not climate change, President Obama. I think when we think about threat assessment, we have to think about short-term, medium-term, long-term. I agree with Mike Mullen and James Mattis, both of whom I know and admire greatly. I agree that long-term, our national debt is a huge national security crisis. I also believe that in the short term, in the very short term, the most immediate national security threats are an insecure border and ISIS. And we have to fix both of them. In the medium term, short to medium term, I would say, our biggest security threats are Iran and Russia, both of whom must be confronted. And in the medium to long term, I would put China on the list of adversaries as well. China has, I've done business in China for a long time. China is focused on becoming the regional leader in the Asia Pacific. They are attempting to control a trade route through which flows $5 trillion worth of goods and services every year. They have been encouraged by a lack of action on the part of this administration to build military facilities on disputed islands. See, here's the thing that this administration doesn't seem to get. When you reward bad behavior, you get more bad behavior. So we must confront China. And I'm pleased to see that at least the current Secretary of Defense understands that. Let me just say, in terms of national security threats, Mrs. Clinton famously asked about the Benghazi attack. What difference does it make? Let me tell you the difference it makes. When we are purposefully attacked by terrorists, when 4 Americans die in our embassy, and the following morning, the Secretary of State talks about a videotape which does not represent the values of our nation, there are two things that happen immediately. Number one, it corrodes the character of this nation when top elected officials lie to the people of this nation. But number two, what do you suppose the message is that goes out to all the bad guys in the world? Wow, we can attack a U.S. embassy, we can kill 4 Americans, and it doesn't make any difference. And so with that statement, what happened? We encouraged more bad behavior. What Mrs. Clinton needed to say is, this was a purposeful terrorist attack, and we, the United States of America, will seek retribution.